Hello, everyone. Welcome to Discourse episode 6. Where we're talking about a cartoon today, one that I recently started watching the past year, and one that I'm obsessed with, along with many other people, I imagine, and that is Helluva Boss, which is created by Vivian Visipop Madrano. And it follows characters in societies in a fictional, whimsical, sexualized version of hell. I've been watching this series for the better half of, probably a little over a year right now. And for those who may be unfamiliar with it, this is from the same creator as Has Been Hotel, which took the internet by storm. I want to say like back in 2018, 2019, which followed the daughter of Lucifer, as she opened up kind of like a health clinic hotel, trying to reform many of the denizens of the 9 rings of hell. Where this one, Helluva Boss, is a spinoff of that show. And I love it. It's a spinoff of a show that's not even gone to production yet, which I think is very amusing. But this is a spinoff where it specifically follows a number of characters and societies and an organization that specializes in assassination, but also deals with all of the inter-office politics and relationships. And it's currently in its 7th episode right now. 7th episode just released, I want to say, this past weekend. We're recording this around November 6, 2021. Episode came out, I think, on Halloween, which was so appropriate. And so they're one episode away from finishing the finale. And so I want to eventually return to this and get everyone's opinions on the entirety of the series itself, or at least the first season so far. But I figure it'd be fun to do this since it's a relatively short show. And I was very busy this week. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we're going to do Avatar Season 3. I'm sorry we can't do that today. Lots been going on. But just to do my general thoughts of this show, I think we talked about off mic beforehand. I thought it was great because it very much adheres to the kind of like the cartoons that we got in the 90s, where they're a little more adult oriented. Like there's a lot of innuendo, clearly. It feels like almost an evolution, a nastier, more crass evolution of something like Animaniacs, or even like in the 2000s when we were getting things like Ed, and Eddie, or even Billy and Mandy, or Invader Zim, which is very appropriate since one of the stars of that show features as a character. And, I grew up watching those cartoons. They had a big impact on me. And I also think part of it's clearly inspired by the Renaissance era of Disney, where they were pretty much musicals. So like, whether it be The Little Mermaid or The Lion King or Aladdin or Hercules, you had a lot of great music numbers, as do these episodes. And it's just a show that I've really come to appreciate and fall in love with, one that I've played the songs on the background. I'm ignorant when it comes to music, but I do love me some Disney Renaissance era-esque music, with a little bit of a twist to it, an adult twist. So I've fallen in love with the show and these main characters and these supporting characters, and the animation to me is gorgeous, and the use of colors. But I've turned into a huge fan of Vivzipop's content, and I just kind of wanted to go down the line. We have a smaller group today, which I think is totally fine. Ask everyone's opinions, but first of all, I want to welcome Emily, Osnick, Chris Ayers, Kaz Faye, and me. I hope you guys are doing very well today. But I figure we'll just, start off with how did you first come upon this series, and what are your general thoughts so far on it? And I wanted to start with Kaz Faye. What about you? How did you first see this series, and what's your general impressions at this moment?
This series was recommended to me just through YouTube in general. I was following some people in the art community who started talking about Vivzipop, and I was curious. I watched Has Been Hotel first, and I thought that was really cool. But since I couldn't get more of that, I decided to eventually watch this, although I just watched it for the first time today, and I think it's really cool. I mean, it's one of the most fucked up things I've ever watched, but at the same time, I love it. Even though, like, maybe some people in my life might judge me for that, but I think it just is a very nice, twisted picture of what Zoomers and millennials have grown up to be, really. Like, there's this mix of wholesomeness and cynicism in there, and, like, yeah, a lot of these characters are questionable at first, but then when you see the other characters they're up against, you get a clearer picture of them as it goes along.
It's like, well, we're not as bad as those guys, you know. I mean,
Exactly.
they literally are denizens of hell. I mean, they're imps, they're demons, whatever you want to call them. Their profession is that they're assassins, where they go into the human world and murder people and kill people. Most of them being awful people to begin with, though. They do emphasize that, like, these are bad people that they're killing the majority of the time. I will say, I think actually the entire time, at least, you know, we'll see maybe on. They might kill an innocent person by accident. But you're right. That's what's crazy about it. Like, it's dealing with so many of adult themes of sex, of depression, toxic relationships. But there is that kind of wholesomeness, you know, between a number of the characters. And I know we'll go into details about them, but, you know, I think a lot of that wholesomeness is conveyed with, you know, like whether it be the relationship with Stolas and his daughter Octavia, or even the marriage of Moxxie and Millie. Like, I feel like if it didn't have those things, it wouldn't be as successful as it is. I think it needs that because of the subject matter is really so dark. So no, you know, great points that you brought up. Chris, here's about yourself. How were you first exposed to the series and your general thoughts on it so far? Or we can go to Osnick.
Right. Sorry, I had to take care of something real quick. Was getting interrupted. Yeah. I thought that I hadn't heard of the show until you said that we were going to be recording a Discord thing for it. So I was like, okay, I'll just watch this thing. And I start watching the pilot, and I'm like, I have seen at least some of this before. Where have I seen it? And then I remembered friends of the show, Corey and Martin from Double Toasted, actually played clips from it when it first dropped that year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, they played some of it on their show, and I thought, that's amusing. I'll keep an eye out for it. Maybe I'll watch the whole thing. And then in between the year, this is how crazy the scheduling for the show is. The pilot came out in November 2019, and then the first official episode came out in October 2020. Yeah. Obviously, COVID happened in between, and priorities kind of shifted for me, and so I kind of forgot about it until you said, like, hey, we're going to watch this, and so I start watching it, and I'm liking it so far. There's a weirdness to it that I feel like I might need to watch it again in order to really kind of wrap my head around, and I love weird stuff, so that's not like a pain for me or anything. But yeah, I'm liking it. I really dig a lot of the characters, but I'm not quite loving it yet. And maybe with this next episode, everything will click together for me, and I'll absolutely fall in love with it. But right now, I'm on that track, but not quite there yet.
I think just because it's an amalgamation of so many different tones, and it's covering a variety of subjects. I mean, it's definitely not something we're used to. It's like, yes, you could say it takes inspiration, like the things I said at the top, like Disney Renaissance era films and maybe 90s and early 2000s cartoons, but it is I feel like it's pretty unique. It's thoroughly unique. And something that wouldn't obviously be on television. Like, you know, we have seen a proliferation of
Good. Can I just call you?
We have seen a kind of proliferation of like adult themed animation on online, and I think some people are still getting used to that. Which is cool, which is interesting. I love that it's still evolving. It shows that, yeah, you don't need to be a part of a major network to have these, to be able to work on a show like this, one that you're passionate about, one you've created a world for, which I think is really cool. Emily, what about yourself? How were you first exposed to this show? I know you haven't seen all that. I think you've only seen maybe the pilot, maybe the first episode, but your general impressions so far of it.
I got the two shows mixed up. I saw the first episode of Has-Been Hotel. I haven't seen Helluva Boss. So.
That's fine. No, talk about that. I mean, we can. Yeah, someday I do want to go into like the nitty-gritty details of Has-Been Hotel. But I mean, yeah, because that's a good chunk. You definitely were exposed to the world. That's a 30-minute episode too. So please go ahead and talk about your general impressions of it.
I thought it was pretty good. I like that it just reminded me of those old Cartoon Network shows. Because we're all pretty close in age, I would think. I'm 28, whatnot. I used to watch Courage and Powerpuff Girls and stuff like that, and I was just like, wow, this reminds me of Cartoon Network. And it's the adult theme, the insanity of the first episode. I thought these characters were just insane. I was like, what is this show? I need to watch more. I want more of it. And
no, that's it. That's what's great about it. No, I love that. It's kind of thing where you you know, because you set your expectations. I'm going to see some weird shit, but I think like even in Hazbin Hotel, they consistently surprise you. Like even when they introduce the character of Alistair, who is the radio demon in that, and how he just adds a completely new dynamic to everything. And it's like, okay, I kind of get it. And he is just this agent of chaos, and how he interacts with like every single character. Like in the span of 5 minutes, he has like an interaction with everybody, and it's already so over the top and so funny. And in some ways scary, which makes it so fresh, which makes it an exciting watch. So yeah, I can't wait to get into some really nitty-gritty details about Hazbin Hotel someday, because it's an excellent pilot episode, and I'm hoping that once they finish the first season of Helluva Boss, then maybe they'll move back to that, because famously A24, like the studio, picked that show up. But there's been no movement on it since. I don't know if that was because of the pandemic, or I don't know how they're going to be, launching that. Like, I'm just not sure of the details right now. I'm sure that you can find it online and things like that.
Possibly a mix of both.
Yeah, it probably is. But, so hopefully we'll see that, because I really like the premise of that show. Austin, are you back right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I
No,
was
it's
just trying
fine.
to mute because I got a call.
No issue. But yeah, we're just kind of going over, how we were first exposed to Helluva Boss, our general impressions of it. I mean, what were yours, man? What do you think of the show so far?
Okay, so I remember seeing one of Vizzy Pop's, like, I think she did a video, an animated video for the Kesha Last Friday Night music video way back in the day, and I remember seeing clips of Helluva Hazbin Hotel just kind of on YouTube, and I watched. I'm like, what is this? And then I found out what it was, and then I watched when that premiered, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like this. I hope we get to see like more of this. And then I actually heard Vizzy Pop on a podcast, and I think the pilot for this dropped about that time, or kind of around that time, like in 2019. And I'm like, I think I like this more. I like the dynamic of the characters. I liked how kind of the other one felt like kind of like a musical. This one felt a little more grounded and a little more like sitcom-y, I guess is the word to say it.
No, I would say that. No, definitely. And I feel like. Go ahead. No, keep going.
You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that it feels. It feels more like a like a network sitcom that has a really sick, twisted sense of humor, and where it's more about the characters.
I totally agree, and just I've enjoyed kind of the different releases and seeing like, well, what's going to happen next time? Because I mean, some of the times the things are connected, but usually are not. It's usually just like a different adventure of the week kind of story.
True. It's they are episodic to a degree. I mean, now they've got to the point where they've featured like we have seen the return of secondary and tertiary characters, and like even this most recent episode, which again came out days ago of this recording. I mean, they're really you have to have had seen like episode. You have to seen all the episodes to really get the context of what's going on, especially even for the song and how those characters incorporate themselves in the song. Everyone from the Fizzerali to Verosica Mayday and what those people mean to Blitzø and how they view him. It's like, oh shit, now it's not like, okay, you can just watch one and or you can come in any time and you're like, oh yeah, I get it. But like, no, you have to have had invested yourself at this point to know kind of what's going on. And so it's cool that the series has kind of gotten to that point where originally it's like, oh, I could just watch one and it's like, okay, I'm good. It's like, no, you got to pay attention now, which really shows like the amount of work that they've put into the world building and the character development. Like that's the thing. I did want to move on to the characters in this show, but before we do so, did anyone have any like more general thoughts or something that they wanted to add about how they were exposed to it or what they think of the show so far? Okay. Well, I figure like the first person you want to talk about is the character of Blitzø, although he doesn't like to be called Blitzø, okay? It's Blitz, but the O is silent. And he is the owner of IMP, which is called Immediate Murder Professionals, which I think is so funny. It's a nice little acronym where he basically opens an assassination business and using a grimoire of I think they're called it's like this demon royalty in hell, and this particular person that he has gotten the grimoire for, which basically opens up a portal to the living world so they can assassinate people at the behest of demons who were once humans but have now turned to demons, and They want to get vengeance upon certain individuals in the world. He's engaged in a sexual relationship with this demon royal named Stolas, and he operates this business to various degrees of success. I mean, they are good at their jobs, but I wouldn't say he is the best boss. I mean, hence the name Hell. He's a hell of a boss. I mean, he is, because he's such a hot mess, both in which how he treats his employees, how he constantly involves himself in their personal relationships, from either harassing them when they're at home or recording them while they're being intimate or fucking. I mean, he's an interesting character. Famously, I think, voiced by a YouTuber, Brandon Rogers, who I think this is his first voice role ever. And seeing him evolve over time and get better and better in each episode, and definitely in this most recent one, where I think he gives his absolute best performance. It's been an absolute thrill to just watch this character and see how, bro. I mean, he's funny, he's over the top, he's crass, but seeing how broken he is and almost how sad he is. Like, he's the one that, out of, maybe with the exception of, you can say, Stolas, he is the saddest character on the show. But what's everyone's general impression of Blitz or Blitzø so far? We can go ahead. I know you haven't really. Have you seen? So you've only seen Hazbin Hotel, Emily? Is that correct? At the moment.
Yeah, that's all I've seen.
Okay. So we can go ahead. We'll just go with Austin first. What are your impressions then on Blitzø? What do you think of him so far?
He's like Steve Carell of The Office, like in those early, early seasons when he was like really horrible, like that kind. He's like I think everyone's had a bad boss, so there's some mean relation, but he is a horrible boss and kind of a shitty person. But you kind of do emphasize with him as the show goes on, and as you learn more about him as a character.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like at first it's like, okay, you're just a piece of shit, and you're ridiculous, you're sex crazed, you're all these things. Like, he's not monogamous to any degree. But when you learn more about him and you learn about his history, which they layer that in pretty much every episode, which is interesting. And how he attaches himself to certain people. Like, I love how with like Millie and Moxxie, who he always mocks Moxxie. He's always very hard on him, but he's clearly infatuated with their relationship and wants to involve himself in, because they have, funny enough, the most stable, even though they're assassins and they're murderers, they're the most stable people in the show. And they're like, they really do truly love each other. And he's never had that. And so that's why he constantly tries to ingratiate himself, particularly like to Millie, or just involve himself in that relationship. Which again makes him an awful boss, because he shouldn't do that, of course. But it's just another side to his character, which is very sad. It's very sad. Chris Harris, about you, what do you think of Blitzø?
I'm really liking him so far. I like the fact that he's gay, but they don't make a joke out of it. It just is what it is. And I always find it funny whenever he like pops in and watches Millie and Moxxie, because I didn't get the impression that what you just said, that's what it was about. I just thought he was a creepy motherfucker who he's done so much, and that's the only way he can get off now, is to just watch other people getting it on. Like, that's what I took away from it personally.
I think he's bisexual, because he has had relationships with women, as we see with Verosika. They talk about their relationship, and I think at first, like, that's what we're supposed to. That's how he is. Like in the pilot, it's like, oh, he just gets off to that because he's weirdly obsessed, and he's looking for his next sexual conquest. Like, I agree, but I think as the show goes on, we see that it's more than that. Again, particularly for this. I mean, I hate to keep bringing it up, but this most recent episode, I think it is more than that now, where it's not just he's has like lust for them or anything like that in that relationship. I think he wants that wholesomeness, and he's afraid of it, because clearly he's been hurt in his life. And because he was hurt so bad, whatever the circumstances were, which I imagine we'll learn more over time, that he's pushed people away and he's hurt a lot of people, which makes it kind of so sad. What about you, Kazfe? What are your opinions on Blitzø so far in the series?
Well, I've found him interesting from the beginning. I kind of figured he was going to be one of those asshole anti-hero type characters that gets more depth later. Although, like, Truth Seekers really hit me a lot harder than I thought it would, and I thought that musical number between him and Moxxie was just beautifully done. Also vulgar, but at the same time, again, there was that wholesomeness mixed in there, and it was really showing how he has more in common with Moxxie than he would ever want to admit to himself. He has so many insecurities. And also it shows later that he has a lot in common with Stolas too, but he just wouldn't want to admit it to himself because he feels used by him.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's how the relationship starts. Is that, you know, I'm getting the book, and my payment for getting the book is just, or the way in which I'm paying you is just through sex. But then we learn more that maybe that's how it originally started, but it became something more with Stolas. And I like that. I even love that musical number that you brought up, where they kind of, even though they're both tripping balls in their own messed up musical numbers, I love that kind of wholesomeness about that song, which is, because Moxxie, he loves family opera, and it's a whole parody of that. What's the thing that, yes, bitch, my little bitch boy? That's what he calls Moxxie throughout the musical. I think it's so amusing. But we were talking about Moxxie right now. I mean, you brought up Moxxie, Kazfe. We can continue on. What's so cool is that they have Richard Horowitz voicing him, who's probably, I argue to say, is probably the biggest voice actor in the show. And that's because of, his past work, of course. I think for our generation, we've heard his voice in countless animated programs, but most particular Invader Zim, which is what was that kind of like very mature, kind of almost adult oriented animated show where it got violent, it got crass, and also something like he voiced the character of Zim, and also in Billy and Mandy, which had that horror aesthetic, but also had those adult themes as well, and that adult humor and that innuendo, voicing the character of Billy in that show. And I love it because I've seen interviews with him. Because what's cool, because on Vivzy Pop's channel, because they only upload like as Chris Ayre said, an episode every 3 or 5 months. Although I think they've been uploading them with more frequency recently. But they do have these like really long 2-hour podcasts or video casts, and they're talking about it, like making the show and fan reaction and the lore of the world, which the lore for this world is immense. Like, I've seen interviews of Vivzy Pop, and she's talking about shit that we haven't even seen yet. I'm like, and the 9 rings of hell, and how the environments are, and the demons and characters you haven't even met. We've only like heard about or seen the background. It's like, Jesus, okay. But he even has talked about how, it's just my voice. It's like exactly my voice as I'm talking to you now. I just swear a little bit more than usual, but it's still, I think, such a great performance. And he is, along with Millie, even though she's crazy, she's murderous, he's a super wholesome character. And I love that they have this relationship where, because you would think like, okay, this is a show, it's all crass and that's all it's going to be. But it's like, wow, they're relationship goals. They have a really healthy marriage. He obviously loves her. She loves him. They're honest of each other. And you feel like for like a show like this, you wouldn't expect that. Like, we wouldn't see a healthy relationship in any capacity. And for them to just put it on full display, it's like, oh, I think that's why the show is a success, because you need that. Because it can't just all be crassness and depravity and cruelty, because then it wouldn't be fun to watch. And so you need that heart. And I feel like they're the heart of the show. But I love the Moxxie character. He's Widow Bowtie. But Kazfe, what about what are your opinions on Moxxie as a character? I guess we could talk about Millie too. Millie and her relationship with her husband, and I love her very thick Southern accent. Like, they're two characters you wouldn't think would be together. But they, like, he's a drama school nerd. Like, he's a kid that grew up like watching Disney Renaissance era movies, and she was a country girl who was wrestling demon cattle and demon hogs and things. But yeah, your opinions on Moxxie and Millie as characters.
I love the dynamic that they have. I love how chaotic Millie is, and the voice actress that plays her does a really, really great job. I know they replaced her after the pilot, and it definitely it
Vivian
amped up
Nixon.
her personality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this relationship, it really shows a softer side to Moxxie that we probably wouldn't see otherwise, because then he'd just be some bumbling smartass or something.
Yeah.
And I love how, like, it's the wholesomeness of their relationship that really makes everyone in this universe raise their eyebrows, and that, like, Moxxie is not nearly the wuss that a lot of people want to make him out to be, but just because he loves his wife, people want to come down on him so hard, but he's, like, way stronger, and he's, like, a great shot and everything. Like, he's one of the strongest characters on the show.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I think he's, like, emotionally one of the most healthy characters in the show. Like psychologically, emotionally healthy, along with his wife. Yes, they are murderers. They are assassins. They are imps from hell. There's no doubt about that. But they seem really content with each other, and they're honest. Which I'm even trying to think like of an adult-oriented animated cartoon where they show a really healthy marriage. Is there one? Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I'm going through all of them. Like I mean, maybe you could say the closest to The Simpsons, but nowadays it's like Homer's just a selfish idiot. Where back in the day he actually was trying hard. But I'm like, Family Guy, Peter and Lois toxic, Archer toxic.
I would argue Stan and Francine from American Dad, and I remember all the shitty things Stan did, and I was like, nope, never mind.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm thinking of all these like adult oriented cartoons, and nothing's coming to mind. And
I mean, technically Bob's Burgers is an adult cartoon, but it's also a family adult cartoon, you know? It's not as crass.
True. Yeah, that I think you're right. I think that would probably be the closest with Bob and what was her? Luann, correct? Is her name?
Linda.
Thank you. I forgot. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's an outlier, which I think is really cool. Do you have any other thoughts on just the Moxxie and Millie relationship, or just the characters in general?
Me?
Yeah. You, or we could just move on to the next person. I just know if you have any additional thoughts.
I everything.
Okay. Chris Ayers, what about you, sir? What do you think of Moxxie and Millie, their relationship, the characters by themselves?
I'm really into it. Like, honestly, so far, they're probably my favorite characters on the show because they're so, like, on opposite ends of the spectrum, and yet there's never, like, any, like, conflict between the two of them. They just come off as a normal, loving couple, which is crazy because he's kind of nebbish, and, you know, she's a wild card who's into pegging and whatnot. Like, Nia Brownie would probably love that character if she was here.
Oh my God, yeah, she would. Holy shit.
Yeah. The relationship that should be the most insane and nonsensical ends up being the most heartfelt of the whole show, and I dig that.
Yeah, fully agree. Austin, what about yourself, sir? What do you think of Moxxie and Millie? Or we can just move. Oh no, you just mute him, so that's fine. And Emily, I would ask you, but you haven't seen it.
Sounds so good. I need to watch it.
You need to watch it.
Yeah, I'll make it sound like it's worth a watch.
It is, and again, it's a quick watch. Like, you can do all the episodes in like under 2 hours. I want to say it's under 2 hours. So it'd be pretty short. Yeah, and we'll definitely return to this someday. So I want to get your opinion on it. Like when we do the finale, and we can do Has Been Hotel, which you can definitely talk about. So that'll be perfect. But we'll get Austin's opinion on Moxxie and Millie in a bit once he comes back. But now I want to move on to the I guess the last member of the Imp organization, and that is Loona, who is a fan favorite, and I think that's just because there's a lot of horny people out there who are furries. But she is very much the sassy, blunt, like lazy secretary that I think we almost always see in a show like this. I think that for whatever reason, when you think of like adult animation in an office environment, you always have a secretary who is just kind of crazy, a little out there. You know, like I always think of like Cheryl Carroll from Archer or something like that. And where Loona definitely isn't as crazy as someone like Cheryl Carroll, I would say as maybe perhaps as lazy or aloof. But Loona, I mean, I love how, I mean, she is a hellhound in the show. She is not an imp. She's a hellhound, werewolf-esque character. And I love how even the show's creators, VisiPop, and the people that work on the show know that people lust after her so much and have done all sorts of Rule 34 artwork on her. And they actually made that like a part of the show. Like there's a fucking, like my favorite moment with Loona is, I think it's like in episode 3. And it's the spring break episode where they have to deal with Veroska, and they made that bet with Veroska and her succubi, and how she wants to go to the human world because she's attracted to Verosika's hellhound, and Blitzø's like totally against it. It's like, no, do you know the amount of freaks out there who lust after you, and they all look at the camera for a fucking beat? And I feel like that is just what defines Loona as a character, is that she's just lusted after so thoroughly. But she's still very funny. I like her bluntness. I like her sassiness. And funny enough, the voice actors who does Loona, Erica Lindbeck, she did Millie in the pilot before she was replaced with Vivian Nixon. But yeah, I like Loona. I want to see more. If I have any critiques of the principal cast, of the main four, it's like I want a little bit more with her, because I feel like she's almost just kind of used as she's just there to be sarcastic or to talk down to her adopted father, which is Blitzø. But I kind of want more from her at this point, because I feel like she's kind of almost like underwritten. But what about I guess we can go with because I don't know if Osik's still gone, so we'll go with you, Casfe. What are your opinions on Loona so far?
I agree with you on wanting more backstory on her. I think it's coming. I think the spring break episode definitely hinted at it, but since we already have the thing with Octavia and Stolas, maybe they felt like there wasn't room for it yet, or maybe it'll come up in the finale. But I just, yeah, I definitely love her attitude and her snarkiness and everything, and I do feel like it's not just coming from that, lazy receptionist place, but also like she seems to have some sort of trauma there. Like the way she was lashing out at Blitzø and everything, I feel like she does want to open up to him but doesn't want to admit it. And I really hope we get to learn more about why that is.
You bring up a good point, because we know that she was clearly like in an orphanage and he adopted her. And it's like, what were the circumstances in which she was at that orphanage in the first place? Was she abandoned by her family? We can only hypothesize at this point, but clearly she has some sort of trauma. You're right. And maybe as we like, this next episode is leading into obviously dealing with Blitzø's his relationship issues. I feel like they would have to bring up Loona and her relationship with Blitz, since that is probably the person other than Stolas that he's closest with right now, which is almost sad to say. That's the only other character he's as close with. Chris Harris, about yourself, what do you think of Looney so far?
I really dig Looney. It's funny, earlier you described her as like, yeah, she's lazy and she's snarky and she's super blunt about everything and like constantly talking shit to people. Like, that's me. So I kind of relate to her on that level. Like, if she was in the real world, her and I would probably be the best of friends, because we have so many similarities like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she brings a welcome like she's the most different out of everybody, and yeah, she's probably the most dickish, and I find that really appealing, and it adds something to the show.
Yeah, she is. I like that each character feels different from the other one. There's no one that feels like, oh, they're exactly like this character. They're the same. Like, everyone has starkly different personalities. And that's what makes it so interesting that these four are like in a group together and how they bounce off of each other and things. Like, even like, there's the running gag with Loona, and she's always criticizing Moxxie's weight, even though he's not fat at all. That's like a recurring gag. She calls him fatty all the time. It's like, why are you saying this to me? I thought that looked great. I love it. I love that. I love the dynamic. Even when sometimes, like, when they team up, like in episode, it was the episode before this one, right? Episode 6. Where they're captured, where Blitzø and Moxxie are captured, and Loona and Millie have to work together, and how they are just a fucking power team and a half. How they slaughter people using their abilities, but also seeing their personalities bounce off of each other. I really like that with them. And moving on from like the main quartet, I feel like we can talk about some of the important supporting characters. You could even say they're part of the main cast at this point. I mean, this individual in particular has been in most of the episodes, along with the four. But that's the character of Stolas, who is is he called a Goetia? I believe that he's part of Goetia royalty, which is this owl-like demon race. And like you can watch Vivzy Pop's like lore breakdowns of this world. Like it's crazy how you have Lucifer, then you have the 9 rings of Hell Lords, and then the Goetias. Like it's crazy. It's like I don't know how it all works, but she's got it all figured out. But he apparently is a person of great renown and importance, and he is the one that has that grimoire that Blitzø uses. But I even like how when we're first introduced to Stolas in the series, how he's kind of he's almost kind of set up as a potential villain. It's like, okay, we gotta placate this guy every once in a while because he has this over us. This is like our profession is succeeds based on what he's been able to give us, and you feel like that's what he's going to be. But he turns like later on, he turns into this really sad figure, where we see how, because he's clearly in a loveless marriage, his relationship with his wife crumbles completely to the point where she wants to assassinate him. His relationship with his daughter has kind of broken apart, and he tries to appeal to her. We get one of the absolute most brilliant musical numbers in the entire show. You'll Be Okay, when she's a little girl. And then when he tries to get, back in her good graces, take her to a theme park, which she loved as a child. But also his much like Blitz, his quest to find someone he can be truthful with, be in a healthy relationship. I mean, Stolas is obviously, I feel like he's obviously gay. And I might be reading into this where because he's part of royalty, it's like this feels like a marriage that was already organized beforehand without his input, and it's like, well, man, you got to continue the bloodline, you got to pop out all these little owl babies and things. This is how it works out, and I feel like that's not who he is, and we've seen that more and more and more in this most recent episode, where really we see him at the first time, other than maybe in episode 2 with his daughter, but really like at his darkest and most dour moment. It's really made me feel for the character, and the guy that voices him is Bryce Pinkham. They had another voice actor who voiced him for the pilot, but they changed him, but he did a good job as well. But I'm a huge Stolas fan. I love his voice. I love his design. I love the idea of the owl demon. I think that's just really cool to look. I love his kind of foppish British accent. It works both when he's being very whimsical and over the top, but also when he's very sad. But we'll go ahead and Austin, if you're back right now, can I ask your opinion? We're talking about Stolas at the moment, and you can go after we talk about Stolas. We can go ahead and have you talk about what Moxxie and Millie and Loona. But we'll start with you, man. What are your opinions on Stolas as a character?
I think he's really cool. I think there's a lot we don't really know about him, and he seems like a very interesting character, and I do like his kind of foppishness, but in that one episode where he is scary. If you cross him, be afraid. Like he is a demon, and you should know that by this point.
It's like the one when he comes back, he goes to the mortal realm when he goes to Earth, and he terrifies. He possesses that one human agent in a very horrific fashion. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about him, is like he's still very powerful and scary. But then I love that we see that, but then we also see him at his like most vulnerable. I love that we have that dichotomy from episode to episode. I think it's really cool. And if you want to take a moment to talk about Moxxie and Millie and also Loona before I go on to ask Chris Ayers' opinion on Stolas.
Yeah, I like Moxxie and Millie's relationship. I think they probably have I like their kind of they balance each other out very well. I think it's nice hearing Richard Horvitz in a cartoon as like something Emily said. It's that he was such a voice in like the early 2000s and 90s that it's nice. I mean, even back from like Power Rangers, he was Alpha. So
that's
it's
right.
Like, there's something. I guess there's something that kind of comforting about hearing him again. In terms of Millie, I like how she's kind of the perfect kind of where he's kind of a little bit more complainy and whiny. She's kind of comforting and warm to him, and you see kind of there is like true love and like happiness between them. Yeah,
I really agree. And what about Loona, the Hellhound secretary?
I really like Loona.
Looney.
I think their relationship's interesting. I just hope she kind of gets some more focus and we kind of see what her deal is and how they kind of met and why she is a little bit the way she is. Yeah, and just a lot of people really like drawing art of her out there. That's all I'm going to say. A lot of freaks.
She is definitely the most popular character in that regard and how they fetishize over her. But yeah, like you, I think we've all kind of agreed over this, is that we want to see more of her background, because I feel like she might be the most underdeveloped character. Not that she's not bad, not that the voice actress is not doing a bad job. She's doing a great job. But I want to learn more about her. I want to see what, I want to get into the meat of her relationship with her adopted father, Blitzø. But Chris Ayres, what are your opinions on Solus so far in the series?
Stolas is fun. I really dig his dynamic with the boss, with Blitz, and
yeah.
I really like when the few times we really get a peek at what his home life is like, and how like happy and wholesome it used to be before it just disintegrated completely. And like his wife is always yelling at him, and his daughter is like a moody emo teen. And yeah, whenever he pops up, I always get excited.
I'm the same way with you, man. I absolutely adore Stolas. It's just that that voice actor does such a great job. Like, even there's like something like in episode 2, like I have to debate with myself, like, which episode do I like most? And we'll talk about like our favorite episode. Is it episode 2 for me, or is it episode 7, the most recent one? But I love how we have these really emotional moments, like when he's singing to his daughter. And it's like, everything will be okay. And as this universe is collapsing in on itself, and he's belting out those goddamn tunes. But also, like, when they go to the Fizzerales, like that abomination animatronic, concert, and he's going, oh, and he's like clapping and stuff. Like, I love that about him. Like, we see so many variations of him, and it's so goddamn funny. He is, he's definitely like one of my absolute favorite characters in this show. Cass, what about yourself? What are your opinions on Stolas?
Yeah, I love Stolas as a character now. I think in the pilot episode and then the first episode after that, I wasn't sure what I would think of him. He seemed like the kind of rich asshole that I would hate. But they humanized him very quickly with that song, and it gave me whiplash, and I came to realize very quickly that it was supposed to, because like it goes from these really cynical episodes beforehand to this really sweet scene with his daughter, and then it jumps right back into the cynicism again, right with her waking up. And
good point.
I feel like Octavia and Loona could be friends for sure on that note.
The whole fan base wants that to happen. They want them to either be friends or be a couple. I feel like because they've never crossed each other's path, which is so weird. And I feel like that, yeah, you're right. They would totally get along with each other because they're so similar to each other. So that's an excellent point. Stolas, I'm there just to see what they're going to be doing with him. I mean, the thing that's interesting, we were getting into spoilers, but I mean, his wife's trying to kill him. That's the one thing. I mean, we learned in episode, I guess it was 5, where we go to Millie's parents, and it's to celebrate this harvest festival that takes place in the Wrath Ring in Hell, and so which Stolas is presiding over. I mean, you have what's his name? Help me out here. He's the guy, the most popular character in the Walking Dead TV. Norman Reedus. Norman Reedus is the character of Stryker, he's trying to assassinate him at the request of Stolas' wife. And it's like, okay, you set that up, and you're like, yeah, he didn't do it. He wasn't accomplished because he was foiled by Blitz and the other employees of Imp. And we were seeing Stolas at his kind of like his most darkest moment right now in the series, emotionally. But he also is someone who's gunning for him. And I don't know. I mean, I would not be surprised if there is a character death in this series, and it's like this is when Blitz. I don't know. I'm speculating at this point. We can do speculation at the end, but I just want to talk about this for a moment, where maybe Blitz finally is like, no, I want to be in a relationship with you, like a proper relationship, and Stolas is so happy, and they agree to that, and he ends up getting killed. And I feel like that would just be like a knife in the chest for so many people, because he's such a beloved character, but at the same time, I could see them doing that. Do you guys have any concerns over the fate of Stolas, or am I just reading into it? Am I getting too sad based on like this most recent episode?
I think
you kind of sound like you want him to die. Like,
I don't want him to die. I love him because he goes. I love him so much.
He's already in hell, so.
But they do establish you could die though. You can go to nothingness.
Even so, I don't think they're gonna kill him. No fucking way.
Yeah.
I think they'll give us a good scare on it, though.
Mm.
Maybe
Okay.
that.
A good scare, yeah. Maybe where he's almost assassinated. All right, yeah, I could see that. And we'll find out. We'll find out in 3 to 5 months' time when we get the next episode. I imagine it'll be a lot sooner. I would not be surprised now because this is kind of like the colors, but it's like part 1 of the finale. So I figure we'll get the next one in a lot shorter time frame.
Unless they're trolling and that part 1 is actually the finale and they called it a part 1 just to fuck with us.
Oh, that'd be cool. Hopefully not. I
Part
feel
2 is the beginning of the next season.
season 2 or something. I hope
The
not.
cliffhanger thing.
That
Kind
would
of
be
like what they did with like the first season of South Park, where the first season ends with a cliffhanger of like, who is Cartman's father? And then we don't find out until the second episode of the second season.
Oh shit! I didn't
Oh,
know
that's
about that.
right.
Interesting. Oh wow. Yeah, they could do that. I feel like they would have made it like, okay, listen, this is the finale. They said that this is part 1 of the finale of season 1. So
Okay.
I'm thinking that's the case. But yeah, that's pretty much. I would say that's the principal cast of characters. Those 5. However, there are the characters in the show, and I know that probably a number of you want to at least take a moment to talk about some of them. I want to mention a couple that I just really enjoyed, and we'll just go down the line and see if you guys have anything else. Want to mention Verosika Mayday. I really like that character. Who was introduced obviously in episode 3, and they brought her back recently for episode 7 as the former girlfriend of Blitz. And I like that she's clearly a representation of a parody of these kind of like pop stars who suffer from substance abuse and emotional abuse, and they got a bit of a chip on their shoulder. Although in her regard, I think it makes sense based on what Blitz did to her. But I think she has a great musical number in episode 3, and I like that they're even delving more into her, where she's like, okay, she's not just the evil bitch character, she's not just a villain. It's like, no, there's clearly she's hurting too, and there's more to her. She's just she's found herself in that kind of pop star celebrity lifestyle right now that she seemingly can't escape from. But I really like Verosika Mayday. I also want to bring up, of course, Stolas, of course, is great, but I do love his daughter, Octavia. She is so fucking adorable as a little owl, as a little baby owl. Like there's just that one scene in episode 2 when she's crying for her parents, and her mother's like, I don't give a fuck. And the dad goes in there, and like she's so small that she has to like climb down from the bed, and she like waddles up to him. That's so adorable. But I also love her when she is a young woman, when she is a teenager, and how she very much that goth teenager, and she has that let me look up her voice actors, but her delivery, Barrett Wilbert Weed as teenage Octavia, excuse me, and Julia Seda as young Octavia. Like her dry British delivery is so good to me, and I love that they focused. I mean, that was the episode. It was about the two of them in that episode. I want to see, because we haven't seen her since then. She's made small cameos of no voice lines. Even supposed to be episode she appeared, but she no voice lines. So I want to see more of her. And I really like Fizzarali, who we originally see a version of him in episode 2, which is this Five Nights at Freddy's animatronic abomination. I love his voice actor, how he sounds, like how they got that cadence down of a robot. But then seeing his imp form, his real form, most recently, and also hinting at that, okay, he clearly had some type of relationship with Blitz. I feel like they might have been like childhood best friends, and that just went sour, which is very interesting to me. So I want to see more of Fizzarelli. I like his whole jester getup too, and his relationship with the demon lord of lust, Osmodeus. I really like that. That was pretty cool. But any other characters people wanted to bring up? Like, this was just a couple off top of my head. But Cassie, we'll start with you. There's anyone else you wanted to bring up, or people I've already mentioned?
Well, going back to Octavia, actually, Barrett Wilbert Weed is an actress I'm kind of familiar with because she's had a lot of stage roles in musicals. She played Veronica in Heathers the Musical.
Okay, cool.
She also played Janice Ian in Mean Girls the Musical. So seeing that she's in this and seeing the type of character she plays, I think it's the perfect fit for her.
Nice. There actually is another person who they got another Broadway star. Most recently, the guy who plays Osmodeus, James Monroe Iglehart. He's a Broadway performer. I think he plays the genie in the Aladdin musical.
Ooh.
I think that's what he comes from. One of his best known roles. I think it's really cool. But is there any other characters you wanted to bring up other than Octavia before we move on?
Well, I thought Veronica Mayday definitely had like some of the best musical moments or some of the most underrated ones. Like I don't know if people talk as much about her, so I hope we do see her again.
I feel like we will. I feel the fact that we're getting so much into Blitzø's relationships, and I mean, you even see like that picture of them because you only hear about how bad the relationship was, but you see that picture on his phone when he's scrolling, which I feel like we've all done that before. We take pictures with significant others, and those are long gone. We're like, it gets so melancholy and sad, and I like that they were clearly in love with each other at one point, which I like it. So I do think we're going to see more of Veronica. What about you, Chris Ayers? Is there another like supporting character that you wanted to mention? Either the ones that we already talked about or someone else? Oh, I think he might be muted. Osnick, what about you, sir? Same question. Characters we already mentioned, supporting characters we already mentioned, or is there someone else we haven't mentioned you wanted to at least give a moment and talk about?
I was still pretty blown away. They actually got Norman Reedus to be a striker because it's, Death Stranding and and this
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead too. Like
busy man.
It's so crazy that like an internet, like a pretty small internet show. I mean, I know it gets like billions, like thousands of views. Actually, got like a pretty like up there Hollywood actor just to be in their like little internet cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the world has changed. I also really love the deer that Vizzy Pop plays in the Cherub episode.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that is very funny. You're right. Yeah, keep going.
I don't know. There's something very satisfying to telling a certain person no. I don't know. I don't know why. I think that's just so funny.
Well, I it's funny because I feel like maybe that's where I got because I go no in my stream. Is like, did I get that from her when I watched the episode? I got to remember if I did that, but no, that is. It's just something really funny about that. Going, yeah, like you're about to say, yeah, of course, but it's really like, no. And her delivery is super, super adorable. So yeah, that's great. Any other characters you wanted to mention, Osnick? But yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, no, yeah, of course. Norman Reedus' character, who I feel like will come back. Obviously, they're setting him up to come back as a very intimidating villain. I mean, he's trying to kill Stolas, so we'll see.
No, I think I'm good. I was trying to think of the other ones, but
okay, cool. What about you, Chris Ayers? Any particular character which we already brought up? You want to just say like, hey, I let this moment with them, or someone else we haven't mentioned?
Sorry if I had to pop out for a second. Someone went out and got Chinese, and I can't turn down that chicken, so I had to get some and bring it up here.
I get you.
A lot of the characters that I really liked have already been brought up. One that I did really like that I don't know if you guys brought up while I was gone is in the first episode, Mrs. Mayberry.
Oh yes,
who is the woman who finds out in the most fucked up and funny way that her husband's having an affair. Mm-hmm. And so she goes over and kills them, or at least tries to kill both of them, and then kills herself. I just really like that character and the way she's voiced, and I didn't realize until looking it up, like just before coming over here, she's voiced by Mara Wilson, who most listeners probably remember as Matilda, or as Natalie, the youngest of the kids in Mrs. Doubtfire. So yeah, I had no idea that was her. I was really surprised.
I did not know that either. Look at that, bring up that fun fact. Thanks, man. Yeah, I know she retired. She's retired from acting, though, so maybe she's doing some voice work now. Interesting.
I think she'll still pop up every once in a while, but yeah, I think right now she's mostly focused on writing plays and books.
Oh, okay, cool. No, I did not know. That's awesome. No, she is a fun character. I even love it because the episode starts because you have the pilot, which is basically them having a meeting in the office, but then that one's like it starts properly. It's just like it's this like little ideal, cute, school on a hill. And I love her character and how she's trying to do the best by her students, and then she's fucking murders her husband and the person he's having an affair with. Yeah, snaps. I love when she grabs that little girl and just fucking throws her into the roof. I love that exaggeration. Like it's so cute. Yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah. Emily, I know you've seen Has Been Hotel, but we'll go into more details. But is there a character from Has Been Hotel that you wanted to Brandy thought this person is really interesting or really funny?
Let me go to the wiki because it's been a while since I've seen the first episode.
No, that's fine.
And I'm better with just oh yeah, I recognize that person. Let's see here.
Or you could just say what the character looks like and I can name them for you. Because I know.
Like Alistair. He was
he's awesome.
He was cool, dude.
I love his voice. Has that transatlantic accent.
Great.
That because we don't hear that accent anymore.
No,
that died
no one
out.
talks like that anymore. It's great
but
to
I
hear
love that they brought it back, and they have like a little bit of that kind of like it's not. I guess it's kind of auto tune, but it's more like that radio kind of like crackle with him. And I just love the way he sounds, and he's so charismatic, and he's funny, but he's also like, okay, clearly he has other motivations and goals which he's reaching towards, and he's very manipulative. But yeah, he's just this guy. Like, I just want to be around him. He has that magnetic personality, and so once we do get back to Hazbin Hotel, when they do start that series up, episode per episode, I want to see how he's going to evolve as a character. And boy, these guys, I imagine he won't stay the same way. They will get more from him, more depth, which I'm very excited about. No, but Alistair definitely. I mean, if I have to think about like whether it's across Hazbin Hotel or Helluva Boss, even though he's only in one episode, he's definitely high on my list of some of the best characters from this, I guess you can say, franchise at this point. Really, it is, because it's been so successful.
I also like the fact that he does want to genuinely help Charlie run the Happy Hotel, despite his his personality and the way he is.
He wants to help her, but his whole thing. She asks him like, "Why do you want to do it?" And he goes, "Why? Why anyone else wants to do something? Because of sheer absolute boredom. I want to do something new." So yeah, we'll see. I would not be shocked though if he changes over time. If he actually does, yeah, he'll start like a piece of shit, manipulative and things, but he will become like he will want to help people and he'll want to help himself. I think that's what it will eventually go towards, or maybe not. We'll see. I'm just speculating at this point. But as we're going to wind down towards the end, I did want to ask you guys this is a very simple question: favorite episode, song, and a moment or moments in the series. And I'll go ahead and start. And it was really, really hard for me because. I love all the episodes. I think they're all great, but it was always between episode 2 and most recently episode 7. I know I brought up episode 7 a lot, but I feel like we've gotten really into the meat of Blitzø as a character and how kind of sad he is, and what he's gone through, and also Stolas and showcasing the wholesome relationship of Moxxie and Millie. But I really love episode 2 with Stolas and his daughter, which that is the crux. That is the main portion of that episode. But if I had to pick my favorite episode so far, it's definitely Ozzy's, as it's called. And because of all the things I just mentioned, but also, and this goes into the song, because every episode has a song, and I love it because it's a musical. I feel like that's why the series appeals to me, because it tricks my lizard brain. Because it's like I grew up in the Renaissance era of Disney movies, like I said, Little Mermaid and Hercules and Aladdin and Lion King and stuff. And you guys know I love those songs. I even sing them on my streams. They just really appeal to me. And this most recent one, House of Asmodeus, is so fucking good. It's like I just love it. Sing your little love song. How's it go? Sing your little love songs in my lustful lounge. Like I love that whole thing, and that's where they have that professional voice actor, or not voice, excuse me, Broadway star James Monroe Iglehart as Asmodeus, and him doing a duet with the voice actor does Fizzarolli. But then you also have Moxxie singing his song and Veroska coming in and singing part of her song. You have all these different voices, and it's done so well to me. I absolutely love that musical number. I've seen it I think at this point 20 fucking times. I just play it usually when I'm having dinner or I'm working on something else in the background. It's so good. The animation is gorgeous in the colors, and I love his design. But yeah, that's for me. It's so far I have to say favorite episode is episode 7, Ozzy's. The House of Asmodeus is so good. And if I have to pick my favorite moment from the show, I mean there's so many. But I have to say, I guess if I can cheat and do another song, Stolas and his daughter Octavia, that You'll Be Okay song is beautiful to me. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, the incredible action sequence in episode 6, the one before this, when they go and attack that human world, that X-Files-esque organization, and it's pretty much like Kill Bill. They're using like all these like samurai swords and nunchucks and things. Now they slaughter all those guys just on a visceral visual level. How beautiful that is. But that's for me. But we'll go ahead and we'll start with you, Osnick. Your favorite episode, your favorite song, and maybe your favorite moment.
I think my favorite episode was episode 4, the one with the cherubs, just because I love the concept of kind of like the good version of what they do, and we kind of get to see that, and we get to see them kind of compete and kind of what happens between them. I think
adorable.
That's such a. I also like the idea that there is. I mean, in all of her shows, she seems like she has this idea of what heaven is, and that's probably the closest we've gotten to kind of that lore.
Yeah. Yeah, heaven is kind of shitty too. Like they're pieces of shit. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, just that little deer coming in and going, yeah, no. It's like, goddamn. Do you have a favorite song?
I like the Fizzerali. I like his song in episode 2 about Lululand. I don't know. Something about that with the kind of carnival music is just really catchy.
No, it's great. It's great. It has a nice beat to it. Totally agree. And how horrified Octavia is when she's
and just how he moves.
Watching it. Mm-hmm. I love the way because he's robotic. I think it's really cool. And even his imp form, he has cybernetic enhancements because he's even moving with robotic arms and shit and legs. Do you have a moment as well that you that really sticks out to you?
Probably what I said earlier about the deer saying no. That's also your Nia Brownie voice. Is that where it came from?
Maybe it did. Maybe it came from that. I don't know. It's they're definitely related to each other. I just think it's this adorable sound. But yeah, no, nice picks, man. What about you, Mr. Ayers? Your favorite episode, song, and maybe moment or moments?
My favorite episode would probably be the Cherub episode because I love that it's basically two forces going back and forth trying to get this guy to either live or die, and the guy I want to die, and then at the end it's like, oh, never mind, I want to live, but then he dies anyway. I just think that's so fucked up and funny. That kind of stuff really appeals to me. Favorite song is probably the one that Moxxie and Blitzø sing in that Truth episode.
And an opera, yes, bitch.
There's so much shit talking going on between the two of them throughout that whole thing. I love it. And favorite moment, all my favorite elements of this show are the really dark shit. So my favorite moment is probably in the first one where they're gonna let the lady who caused the whole thing of Mrs. Mayberry killing her husband and then killing herself. They kill her, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna let her husband and her kids live. Yeah. And then something gets fucked up, and they both get blown up, and the charred remains of this teddy bear that one of the kids had rolls up at Moxxie's feet. And yeah, I just love that kind of stuff.
And he has that shocked, 1,000-yard stare look afterwards, and everyone's so happy for him. And it's you did it, Moxxie. He's oh. Those kids are pieces of shit. They deserve the dialogue of the husband. But yeah, I liked his reaction because he's so wholesome. Because he wants to see, despite being a little imp demon, he wants to see the best in everybody, which I think is very cute. So yeah, great pick from the original episode 1. What about you, Kaz Faye? Your favorite episode, your favorite song, and your favorite moment or moments?
Well, favorite episode, it's definitely a toss-up between Truth Seekers and Ozzy's. I think both of those had really strong musical numbers, and as a theater person, I feel like it really was starting to go into that genre, so I'm always a fan of that. Oh, and I also did that moment that Chris Ayers was talking about where the family gets blown up. I love how it's the cops that's blowing them up. So basically, the cops are more ruthless than the demons in hell. That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
And also, in an early episode, there's this billboard advertisement that Blitzø made, and he did it through text voice. So when he's spelling out IMP, it phonetically says IMP, like PEE, and it's just got a bunch of other stuff throughout the thing, and it's just a really bungled advertisement, and includes the part where he's like, now don't fuck this up, okay? And then at the bottom it says text voice.
Oh, that's great. Man, there's so much detail. Like I forgot about that moment. And there are so many I mean, that feels like every other line. It just makes you laugh. Like the writing is so good. There's stuff in the background that makes you laugh that you might even not see on the first viewing, the second view, or the third viewing. Like it's a very rewatchable series, and it moves so fast. And they're not that long either. I think the longest episode is about standard 22 minutes, but they could also be like 15. And so, there's just so much content, and it really, again, I think, like I said at the top, it really shows that you don't need to be, you don't like, it shows that you don't have to have your show on the network. You don't need to be on FX or Comedy Central or cable or whatever. One of the whether it be the NBC or Fox or something like that to make a really popular show. Like this series, and that's why I really admire Vivzie Pop and her team for what they've been able to do. It's absolutely incredible. But does anyone else have any other just last minute thoughts they want to talk about the show, or they wanted to hey, something just came to mind immediately? Final thoughts, that kind of thing. Get everyone a little time to speak, but. For myself, I love this series. I think it's great. It's again, it's a wonderful independent cartoon, and it's so cool that this creator and her co-creators have been able to enact their vision so specifically. It's something that you can really admire, I think, and one that I really appreciate, and I can't not wait to see the finale of this and to see it continue on into a second season, hopefully many seasons afterwards, and also their other projects, and with Has Been Hotel, which I do want to get into more details and talk about someday with you guys. But anyone else have any last moments? Just leaving it open on the floor for you guys.
Y'all have sold me on the idea of watching it. I'll watch it later.
Nice. Very good. But looks like we've wrapped this up. Talking about Helluva Boss. For those of you who are listening, thank you so much for being subscribed to the Patreon. Really do appreciate it. I think we can all say that this show is worth checking out. Correct. Yep. At least definitely worth watching. Whether you love it or you like it, hey, at least give it a shot, because you might really, really love it or really, really like it at the very least. So, yeah, it was an absolute pleasure talking about this show. I'm glad this worked out. Apologies for this being a little shorter than usual. I've been dealing with a couple of things this particular week that has made it difficult to do kind of some long-form stuff or rewatch some long-form stuff. So we'll go back to the regular schedule. Starting next week, we'll be doing a movie film of some kind. I don't know what we might do. Might be anything. I leave it up to the very wonderful people that I'm currently talking with right now to choose, as is their ability to choose, since they are paying so much money to be here. And I really appreciate that. But for right now, everyone that's watching, we'll see you next time. Bye. 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 Yeah, we did it together.